Transition, process of change.
We are now at a new crossroads where change is evident once again.
What does not serve us must transform us.
Returning to our original state of oneness and true nature of that which created who we truly are.
Confusion was the way of the past. Enlightenment is the way of the now.
We now bring you the transformation of the two who started as one. Our fearless plan never stands still.
Earth has been in a process of transition. Not exactly. It's remarkable.
Welcome to Transition Radio.
Hello, hello, and welcome. This is Mark Angelo.
This is Lena Cummings.
That's right.
We're here for another, our last show of the year.
I know, 2016. What a year it has been. It's been crazy, crazy, crazy year.
Where did this crazy year go?
Not only that, it's just like, it's been a traumatic year for a lot of people.
It has been.
Especially November 8th.
Yeah, that's still a story yet to be written, isn't it?
Yeah. He's getting ready to take office. Was it January 7th? It's when the inauguration.
No, it's like January 20th.
Oh, 20th?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a ways away. I'm waiting for this eagle to have her baby. What happened?
It hasn't had a baby.
It hasn't happened yet. But they have these cool nature cameras that you can watch like 24/7. And take a look at, what is it we were looking at yesterday or the other day? It was like kittens running, scrambling around, playing around and stuff.
Do you have it on our thing so I could zoom in?
It's kind of mindless.
Oh, okay.
Mindless fun, but they're supposed to hatch, a little egg is supposed to hatch, a little eagle egg. So I've been kind of preoccupied with that. But
and then you showed me one a little earlier where she was feeding the baby and then all of a sudden decided to go to the bathroom and you just see it.
Super multitasking mama.
Yeah, feeding the baby while going to the bathroom at the same time. Anyway, today's show is a New Year's special. And what we plan to do is talk about the different things that happened in the year 2016 and some of the tragedies that,
there's so many tragedies in the year 2016. We're talking about things that, actually kind of boggle the mind. The things that have taken place, the violence and the murders and the deaths and, all the propaganda that we've heard all year long. It's really been a crazy year, and I don't know what's going to happen next year, but next year it's going to be crazy as well because we have a new incoming government and the whole, everything's going to change, especially for those of us who are more progressive or liberal in thought. We don't have, an ear in government anymore.
Oh, we don't. But government, people understood what the word government means, which means mind control, governmente. People think government is there for the people, and it's a entity that's there set up to help people, but in reality, it's not. It's set up to help corporations, set up whoever pays for the government, whoever is actually running the show is who the government's for. It's crazy. But, it is what it is. We've got what we've got, and
we've had, I hope everybody's had a good holiday season. I know there's a lot of loneliness, a lot of loneliness in the LGBT community at this time. I know that I've dealt with my own bouts of, it's like it comes in waves. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less, but it's reminded to you during this time how much family means. And when you don't have family, it really hits you.
Yeah, and you know, like with me, this is the first time. I mean, I've gone away a lot of times and not been around my family and during the holidays, but because of the bout of what we did in the detransition, we hurt, you know, people in my family, and we were not invited to the events. But you know, it's one of those things. It affects me and it hurts me, but there's a part of me that I have that it's almost like I dim the lights because I feel too much. I'm an empath to start off with, and if I allow things to really get to me, it can destroy me.
But I know there's a lot of people out there that, you know, have it way worse than you and I do, because I mean, we are a couple and we go through things together, and being together at this time is healing for both of us. You know,
we had a great time on the 23rd. It was Christmas Eve, and
we didn't celebrate the 24th because we were a bit sloshed, I think, from
a little hangover.
Too much. What is it that we have? Sauvignon Blanc. Too much Sauvignon Blanc, and we went dancing. Had a great time. But
got soaked on the way home.
Got drenched.
Yeah, we go walking. I mean, I don't like drinking and driving, and it's not that far. It's a nice walk to the river walk. And as we were heading home, unexpectedly, it was like
a Florida rain shower.
Yeah. Luckily, it didn't last too long, but we got pretty soaked anyway.
We were chatting with some guy.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, it just started like raining. It's like luckily we found cover, and then it kind of did its thing.
You know, Florida kind of comes and goes.
Like that. That's, you know, it's like a little while ago we just heard the rain
downpour, and then it stops.
But I wanted to share this video, and that it kind of touches on, you know, all the, I guess, all the memoriam, I guess they call it, you know, and I want to go ahead and, Fidel Castro, David Bowie.
And I've always just used to correct personalities, ideas.
I can teach you how to bewitch the mind and ensnare the senses.
What democracy means is that on controversial issues, we debate with each other and persuade each other and vote on it.
United States honors Harper Lee for her outstanding contribution to the great literary tradition of America.
Ronald and Nancy Reagan were defined by their love for each other.
All of us were against me in the sense that it was very difficult for women to make it in architecture.
He lives his art. There was absolutely nobody like him, and there never will be.
I want to make one prediction. I'm not calling around. I predict that when I meet Joe Frazier, this will be like a good amateur fighting a real professional.
I've seen what lost the difference. And the difference usually are children with children. But I think it's wrong. You must stop dealing before it becomes too bad.
I'm with and you'll in a world of your imagination.
And here's the golfer who is the master today, Arnold Palmer.
Today, the greatest choice of all things to be a Middle East independent political state.
I am trying to do my duty under the Independent Council statute and under the law.
When a friend of ours, she not only informed today's citizens, but she also inspired to law journalists.
That's the way they all became the Brady Bunch, the Brady.
You are coming at me. Wait for the history. The history will say what we are.
May the wind be with you, Ronald. Good Lord, ride all the way.
Zsa Zsa Gabor.
And not to mention, you know, we had George Michael, and who was the Star Wars
Carrie Fisher. Princess Leia.
Yeah, Princess Leia. So we've lost a lot of great people in 2016. I mean,
And you also lost a personal friend.
Yes, I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. You know, it's always hard to lose people in general, whether you know them personally, whether they become part of our family through the big screen.
Right.
There's always a lot of controversy regarding a death of a celebrity, and I tend to believe you call it conspiracy, powers that be. Oh, they were saying that, you know, George Michael was getting ready to do a documentary.
Yeah, it was called. What was it called? Remember? It was like a name that was like
Freedom.
Yeah. It's called Freedom.
And Michael Jackson, before he was
This Is It
killed, This Is It, he was getting ready to go out and speak their mind, just like what's that guy who's married to the Kardashians, who went a little crazy. They're talking about Kanye West, and they kind of made them go nuts. So, I mean, whatever you want to believe, whether, you know, there are powers to be that control things and people to their benefit, and when they go astray, we've seen many of this, like from Britney Spears going crazy, and I mean, it's just, there's a lot out there, and all you have to do is follow the rabbit hole. But it's sad that more and more people are dying, you know, and I know you've got to die, but I mean, George Michael was only 53. This Princess Leia was only 60.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, when you're
dying of a heart attack.
Yeah, when you're old and sick and, you know, you're ready for it, and it's like, okay, I'm 90, I can go, you know, that kind of thing. But anybody before 75 years of age is gone too soon, too fast, in my opinion. And, you know, talking about gone too soon, too fast. When it hits home, when it's really close to home, it really gets to you. I don't know if any of you that are watching actually got to know Diana Hemingway. I've known Diana for quite a while, way before I was even with Jessica. Diana and I, we gathered in different groups and different events in either Miami or Fort Lauderdale. There's a lot of trans people here in South Florida, and there was always events and things that people hung out. And I actually dated Diana a few times when I was split up with Jessica, and we stopped communicating when I moved to New Mexico, so I lost track of her. And then we ran into her again. Was it July? When was the Pride Fest? In June, and I introduced you to her. And then the other day online, you know, we found out that.
How did you find out?
I went into our group, and I was looking at some of the group people in the group, and I saw someone with a picture of Diana, and something made me go in there to see. And I'm like, are these two together? And then when I kept reading below, it said, no, that Diana had passed away, and she had taken her life. And that was just like, no way. I mean, because Diana was an extreme individual, very intelligent, deep, extremely deep. And I've never thought that she would take her life, but I guess I didn't know her well enough, like other people knew her, and, you know, wanted to share some of the information that was written about her for those that were very close to her or during these last months. It reads, our community has suffered a great loss. Diana lived life on her own terms, and that she did, and died much the same way. A couple of weeks ago, when it seemed that this was more imminent, we discussed her intentions at length. I gave it my all in that conversation, and this was, what's the name of the person who took this from? Gosh, I have to go back the Facebook meeting. But at the end of the talk, I accepted that this was her choice, and she was committed to doing it. The only bit of hope she could offer was that she promised she was still not ruling out trying to live, to find meaningful work to endure.
She walked across my living room and sat on the floor with me as I cried. She put her arm around me and said, in the most empathetic way she could express, "It's okay. It's just that you care about people you love." How surreal it was to be consoled in advance. Looking back, I cling to that memory fondly.
To know Diana, that's what she would do. Things could get bad, and she would always try to be the consoler. Like, hey, it's okay. Even though she could be hurting inside, but she would always try to, be that consoler. She left that night, and I accepted it as best as I could. I stilled my nerves and remembered this was bigger than me, and to my great sadness, bigger than the love she shared with LJ. LJ was her boyfriend, and he's an FTM. I've seen him around in events. I've never personally. I think he attended one of the arts events that I attended, and I played music here in Wilt Manors. From what I can tell, she never meant to fall in love. She warned him it wouldn't end well. But love snuck away into their souls, and despite complications and logic, LJ showed her unconditional love. She said he was the love of his life. And as shitty as it is, I'm so grateful she got to experience that before she left us. I remember dating the couple times that we did, she'd always make that fact known that she wanted no attachments with anyone, So.
She, I believe she was at peace with this decision. Her mental health was better than it's been in years. And while her circumstances weren't in her favor, if she wanted to find a way to live, she could have. She had options. She could have continued, but for reasons only she will fully understand, she was committed to this. And while it will never make sense to me, I honor her memory with the knowledge that this was what she chose wholeheartedly. This was not a reactionary or impulsive act.
She finally had a therapist she respected and was happy with. She was on meds that were working for her. It seems ironic that she would do this despite that, but I believe her mental health, being where it was, gave her the clarity of mind to choose beyond her mental illness. Freely on her own accord, she was no longer the effect of her mental illness. She was in control.
I know in times like this, we all wonder if there's something we could have done to prevent this. For me, I know I did all I needed to do. I promised her that night that I would take care of LJ. That was important to her, and I'm confident we will keep that promise with the overwhelming outpouring of support from the community. It's going to be a tough several months, and he's going to need all of our love.
Rest in power, Diana. Your community is so much less without you. I could only put myself in LJ's shoes and go, wow, what he must be feeling. Because I know what I would feel, I wasn't enough. And, there's selfish reasons for one not to want the person you love to exit before their time. I mean, and we see in situations where people are in their sick bed, attached to a machine, respiratory, what do you call those, life support, and most people want to keep their loved one in the life support even though they're suffering. And it's their own selfish reasons, but I kind of wonder, because she never really wanted to let anybody in, but she did, and I don't want to talk bad at all about her, but it's like, gosh, I wonder what LJ, is going through. It's got to be a rough, very rough thing. This is another letter that we saw and deemed it, shareable here. I was going through old Facebook messages with Diana and wanted to share a conversation about suicide that we had last March that comforted me today. She had strong principled beliefs about end-of-life choices, and they are consistent with her compassion, love for her community, and her passion for autonomy. The message below shows how she thought about others even in her preparations for death. Among the many things that Diana taught me, she helped clear my understanding of, or clear, I guess it was clear my understanding of death.
I'm looking up another.
Ideally, I wish her circumstance improved and that she could be with us for years to come. But her message below can comfort those of us she left behind because she left this world in a way that was consistent with her principles. And it reminds us that her ultimate desire was to have autonomy in life and in death. She did not attach negativity and fear to death that this society does. So we can know that taking her own life was a well thought out decision made in peace that made the most sense to her. And I could totally understand that because I don't fear death. And I've often had thought of exiting because I feel like, okay, my purpose here, there's nothing left. You know, I don't know if God put you in my life for that particular reason because, you know, when I was in Silver City in my RV alone, I really didn't feel much desire to live anymore. It's like there's nothing else left. And it's not that life is so bad that, you know, how people feel when they want to take their life, that they're hit. But it's almost like you get tired of just being around this world that people like me, I'm sure people like Diana and many out there feel that we're like aliens, that we don't belong in this world. We don't fit in. It's like, okay, I've had enough of this. I want to go back home. You know, it's hard to even think of this planet as home. And I get it completely, you know, why she did what she did. So I continue?
Yeah.
Diana's guiding principle of suicide. Number one, first principle is autonomy. It's my belief that people should be allowed to choose for themselves anything that doesn't abridge the human rights of another person. Number two, second principle is consent. Suicide should not involve others who haven't consented to be involved, like stepping in front of a truck. However, first responders have consented based on nature of their jobs, like police, EMT. If a suicidal friend reaches out to you to talk about suicide, you have a right not to consent to engaging them in the conversation. If you consent to discuss, then you become a party to their suicide and potentially liable for their outcome if you don't report. If you accepted that risk, then it's your choice how to be involved, whether as a supportive ear, a prevention resource, an assistant to suicide, or whatever. Then you have the third principle is the circle of life. All things that live must die. That is a universal truth. Death cannot be prevented, only postponed. Death has a cultural meaning that I regard as an unhealthy view of a normal biological process. Demystify death and rationale behind suicide prevention at all costs just falls apart. My fourth principle is compassion. This is a less universal thing. We are under no obligation to be compassionate. However, it's how I choose to live. Compassion teaches me that suffering is unnecessary, though not always avoidable. When suffering is avoidable, a person practicing compassion may choose to help alleviate another's suffering and be morally justified in doing so. In the case of a friend who comes to you to talk about their suicidality, compassion can take many forms. Any of those forms that honor the other person's autonomy and consent are good by definition. Whether you talk them through a tough time or help them construct a suicide device, you've shown compassion. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. I had something else to share.
Okay, my fifth principle is system of harm. Our mental and medical health services are a crock of shit. I believe that too. And our law enforcement is an occupying army. Add to that other systems of oppression that many people are burdened by, and it's clear that involving these institutions will often result in harm to the person you care about. And it's true, a lot of people have reported about suicide and the cops come and kill the person.
Okay.
It's crazy because they get into some sort of altercation. I lost my place. Burdened by, and it's clear that involving these, including mental torment, loss of rights, abuse within the institution, violence, and sometimes death by the hands of others who did not have consent to take a life. I personally would not want a concerned friend calling 911 if I was talking about my suicidality. I refuse to discuss it with mandated reporters like therapists and doctors unless I am very certain they will honor my wishes over protecting their licenses. If hypothetically I wanted to be comforted as I plan my suicide, I only would reach out to a close friend who I could trust to honor me and not usurp my rights to self-determination in my end-of-life choices. I'm not going to mention the name here. You were the friend to her. I've been that friend to many people and will continue to be that friend. Being an outspoken supporter of choice on suicide has opened me up to many folks who needed a safe ear to talk things through. And I think I've been a help to all of them. I would also help them plan a means of suicide that would be successful if that's what they wanted. I give no F's about what the law says. Bottom line for me is that I have a right to determine the course of my life, and it includes my end of life. At any moment and for any reason, I feel that no law or system should get in my way and make my death harder to achieve, less likely to work, or rob me of my dignity. We must honor the autonomy and dignity of people who've had all they want of this life. Forcing someone to live against their will is the ultimate violation of human rights, and much worse than murder, because it produces continuation of suffering. And if someone is thinking about suicide as an option, we should increase their suffering by stigmatizing their thoughts. We can offer support, comfort, and love without non-consensual intervention. Also, when it comes time to watch a friend take their life, we need to check ourselves and our desires to intervene and handle our survivor and community self-care in the aftermath.
I think it's an important thing, though, also to understand that it's a very fine line.
It is.
To travel when you are assisting someone and allowing them to basically murder themselves.
And especially you have to make sure that their mental health is there.
Right.
Not doubting that Diane's mental health was not there. She did suffer from bipolar. She was under medication and under care of a therapist. You know, like you said, this is one of those fine line things. I don't know how to think about this. I mean, I think like if somebody's suffering in a hospital bed and they're under pain meds and they've just had enough of the pain, they can't deal with it anymore. They're in end-stage cancer. They've got some incurable disease. They're done. They're want out. Hey, Dr. Kevorkian is well needed in those cases. But someone who's still young, I mean, Diane was your age, you know, and I know she suffered, but we all suffer. You know, we all have, you know, gosh.
This is what LJ wrote on December 25th. LJ being her boyfriend.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make sense of so many things right now. While I'm battling some seriously overwhelming grief, it's anger that keeps bubbling right up to the surface every few hours. I feel like if this loss doesn't teach our community the importance of hiring trans people, especially in the nonprofit sector, nothing, and I mean nothing, will. Sure, Diana was openly fighting her way through mental illness and disability. And yes, she was a woman, trans, a sex worker, a gender nonconforming, and queer as hell. She had the odds pretty well stacked against her. But she was also white, articulate, informed, a good writer, self-taught, educated, a quick study, profoundly insightful, independent, addiction-free, visible, capable of managing large and complicated projects, good with her hands, able to build most anything. She also had a reliable car and her own home. As marginalized as she was, she knew she also had a lot of privilege. We talked about privilege, access, and intersectionality all of the time. If she couldn't get hired for a job in the last year, even after her mental health improved, and if she couldn't find a way out of sex work, what is it like for other trans folks who don't have the level of privilege that Diana did? We both learned some big lessons in the last year and a half through various lived experiences and conversations about employment and hiring practices. Some takeaways from our many conversations around this topic were: your hiring practices should mirror your politics and be reflective of the populations you serve. If you serve the most underserved, you must also do your best to consider hiring the most underserved. You must show up for our community. Be open to giving people a chance to learn, to grow, to make mistakes, to be accountable, and to heal from their demons. And it must go beyond hiring. If you treat employees with kindness and compassion, if you ensure that they are paid equitably and fairly for their time, if you offer them with opportunities for growth and increased pay, and you do your damn best to offer them decent health benefits because you know they need them, there's a really good chance that they will be fiercely loyal to you and to your organization's mission. Adam Smith taught us these lessons in the 1700s. Take care of your employees and they will take even better care of you. Hundreds of years later, we are still making the same mistakes in hiring and employment practices. If Diana had gotten a job in the last 6 months, and especially one with benefits, I really do not think she would have taken her life. She was fearful of addressing a bowel blockage, a pretty damn serious health problem, especially 8 days in large part because she had no insurance. But she was also unmotivated to address it because she felt she had very little to look forward to in 2017, even if the health issue had been easy to remedy. Her work had dried up, and she was literally begging folks for an opportunity to get back into formal sector work so that she would not have to give up her home and 4 years of stability. We are only capable of systematic change if we are hiring people who truly understand the level of harm that the system brings about, who have insider access to the populations we wish to serve, who have the lived experience necessary to inform and dictate the direction of our ongoing work. If we are not rallying against the status quo and reforming the system right in our own local bubbles, starting with hiring the real experts and listening to these folks instead of talking over them, then we are indeed part of the problem. We have a really long way to go around including trans people, disabled folks, and sex workers in our work. I hope that Diana is somewhere right now shaking her head, rolling up her sleeves and getting ready to flip some tables in South Florida, and we better be ready to join her. Now, I read this and I see that LJ is angry and frustrated at the system.
The system is very frustrating. I mean, it's frustrating for everyone, not just trans people in general. I think a lot of people, their jobs are being outsourced, a lot of jobs are being eliminated and given to robotic things, and it's only probably going to get worse in the future.
Employment practices, though, by being all these things that society looks down on, we kind of shoot ourselves in the foot by being like that. I mean, it's not like, okay, we didn't ask for this, but if you fall into any one of these categories or all of them, then you're going to expect pushback, especially this next year. With all the gains that the LGBT community has made, Donald Trump could, in one swift, writing of his pen on a piece of paper, obliterate all the things that we have gained in a short amount of time.
And even during the time that we were in the positive, with being trans, we're still being, God, there's a lot of prejudice. I mean, I was put under, they laid me off. And I think one of the reasons was because they couldn't deal with the fact that I was trans. They didn't want to make it that way because they didn't want lawsuits in their hand.
Right.
But I know that one of my supervisors had trouble with me. She was a lesbian, and she was not very happy with the fact that I was trans. I wasn't even allowed to talk about stuff once she talked about her lover, right. And then so things of that nature. It's very difficult, no matter how passable you are. And imagine if you're not, how much harder it is, because you're always either getting made fun of, they're always trying to find a reason to fire you. And even if you're a great worker, they'll find a way to lay you off. When the layoffs come, who gets laid off first? The person that doesn't fit their paradigm.
And honestly, do they want to insure someone that wants to get all these surgeries and stuff? I mean, they're going to cost them money. And that's the thing. I mean, if you have a pre-existing condition, someone's not going to hire someone who's got cancer. You know what I mean? And not that being trans is like having cancer, but I'm saying it's like they look at you as having a pre-existing condition.
You know, how mentally stable are you?
How stable are you?
Are you going to, you know, be reliable? Are you going to have sick days because of the interaction with what? Because people don't know. They don't know what happens when you're on hormones. You know, I've heard a lot of cases where people have difficulty because of being confrontative and things of that nature. So it's not easy.
And they're not going to take, the majority of people out there aren't going to take someone who takes sex work as a business and makes it something that they do for profit seriously. I mean, unfortunately, that's the society that we live in, where they're going to look down on us for being that way. They're going to go, oh, that's a stereotypical person that, you know, is into fetishy this and that and the other. And it's like,
that, and then their concern also is, how are the clients going to see? Does the company reflect?
No, but I'm talking about people that do that as a form of income.
Right.
So society is going to look at that and they're going to go, see, this is exactly what we're talking about. You know,
it's difficult. And then this day and age, there's nothing hidden, because all they have to do is do an online search or a background check, and things are
Facebook. You write whatever on Facebook, and you know, everybody knows it. Everybody knows your business. And I mean, I know from my experience in the last 3 years, by being more open about my life as a transition, you know, person, then, you know, it's like subjected me to so much scrutiny, so much criticism, so much like like they're looking at you like with a magnifying glass and going, ah, that problem. Oh, you've got that problem too. And
no, that's what the
totally
internet
overemphasizing everything.
I mean, one never realizes that when you make videos or you make a blog, it's out there forever, you know, and it's one of those things.
Yeah, unless you delete it.
And then if people make copies of it,
it's there.
It's there. There will be a memorial held. It's a celebration of love. And they're going to have a huge bonfire at the Hugh Taylor Birch State Park off of A1A in Sunrise next week. That's actually Thursday, the 29th at 7 p.m. For those that are local and want to attend, we're definitely going to be going. I definitely want to pay my respect. Like I said, I knew Diane for a very long time. We weren't, when I left, we stopped communication, and so I kind of regret not getting back, you know. And
we were going to go to the trans art.
Yeah, and we didn't go. And she was like, you know, amazing artist and very good with her hands. Like, I remember one of the times I went to her apartment, she was always fiddling with things and making things, you know, very artistic and very good with her hands.
Whoever would know that they were a founder of the Green League of Broward.
Wow.
So they were connected to so many organizations and things.
Very deep.
Pre-transition and after transition, you know, everything.
Very smart, deep person, you know. Shameful. I mean, so young and so much to offer still, you know. But I could understand. I mean, it's like when you feel that your talent, your ability is being underused, you feel like you're not living your true potential and you're unappreciated. You know, you want to exit left. I mean, it's easy to want to do. You know, it's like E.T. go home, you know, that kind of thing.
You know, someone wrote, Danielle wrote, suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
It is. It can be.
Sad.
It can be. But I'm like one of those individuals that I could understand both sides. It's hard for those that are left behind to have to deal with losing a loved one, and it's very painful. And then at the same time, for the person who wants out, it's like, okay, I've had enough. There's nothing else left for me here. Let me go. And like I said earlier, it's not, you know, like the thoughts that I've had before. It's not because life is so bad. It's almost like there's nothing left for me here. What's next? This planet has nothing else to offer. And I think that was Diana's way of, you know, it's like, okay, I've had enough. There's, you know, and if you believe in other dimension, another afterlife, and like with me, that, hey, I'm not even from this planet. That's my belief. Like, okay, E.T., go home.
But I honestly don't quite understand that whole concept, because, you know, if you were to leave me, I would just think that that was the most selfish thing that you could have done. Because
I wouldn't do it.
You would have entered into my life at a time that was quite critical and pivotal for me.
Right.
And for you to exit it just because you like felt like, oh, I'm done. I can't really make it in this or that or the other. I'm not really looked at on society, doesn't see me seriously, or whatever purpose and reasons that a person has for wanting to off themselves. I just don't think that if you have someone like, you know, LJ had Diana and Diana had LJ, they fell in love, and when people are together, I mean, you don't live for yourself.
Oh, I agree. And that's why I said you gave me purpose, and I would never do it because I live for you. You know, there's purpose. And that's why I said earlier, LJ should be, I mean, I could like, God, you know, that is the biggest form of abandonment in my opinion. And again, I'm not judging Diana. She had her reason, her purpose. And I'm sure that if LJ knew, and I'm sure he probably did, they were deep and involved with each other, that those were the risks that he had to take.
I mean, let's talk about that thing that Diana had said, that people have autonomy over their lives. I mean, do you really have autonomy over what you do to end your life whenever you feel like it? Is that really a wise way to live your life? It's because at the end of the day, all of us in the trans community are labeled as selfish, narcissistic egotists. You know, at the end of the day, those that loved us before and knew us pre-transition, they look at us and the majority, not all obviously, some of you have very forgiving and giving families and stuff and understanding, and if you do, that's awesome. But the majority of us are abandoned, left, you know, rejected, excommunicated. If you're a Christian, even worse. If you're a minority, even worse. You know, I mean, there's so many things. So I'm just saying, you know, do we have that right as individuals to take our own life away? I mean,
that's a hard question to answer. Like I said earlier, if you're on a deathbed and you're suffering and you're hurting, and you know, it's hard to go on because there's a lot of pain. Then, you know,
I mean, Diana had a house, had a car, had an ability to make money in this society, was white. They explained it.
Right.
And fact is, you know, if you're white, you are born into more privilege than those that are not white. Not necessarily straight across the board, but a lot of times that's the case. But, you know, I mean, it's like so many things going for you, you know.
She's very talented.
So many things.
Very talented and very caring. So it's kind of perturbing to me that as caring, although she did not want to really enter into a relationship, maybe because she had this idea all along. But, you know, again, I can't judge her. I'm sad to see that she's gone, you know, and I'm sad for LJ. My heart really goes out to LJ because I can only even imagine being in his shoes, how devastating that would be.
But people like use, you know, I saw some of these posts, some of these people, you know, a trans woman that I know of out in New Mexico made it a point to say, this is why LGBT needs to have more representation in the workforce, and this is why we need to fight for trans rights to the employment job space. And it's like,
that fighting
I
doesn't
just
solve
don't
anything.
think
That's the problem.
the way to do it.
That's the problem.
And then they're blaming LG organizations for being discriminatory towards trans people.
I mean, people need to take responsibility for their lives. I mean, I know a lot of people say this is not a choice, but technically it's not. We're born this way. We've got biological issues. There's some of us with mental, disruptions and everything else, but we can't blame the world because, the world doesn't owe us anything. And I think that, I could be very angry about being laid off and have not been able to get, a job in that field, and kind of create a little hatred towards it because of how the medical system is. But I can't blame anyone.
I could too, I mean, I was working with a Christian organization for a couple of decades and stuff. They loved me, they loved my work, they loved what I did. And then when I was trans, they found out. That was the end of that. And, I mean, someone writes, Candy Psycho writes, this year's election has affected people who don't fall in the LGBT community. One of my brothers had a mental breakdown a day after the election. The media scared him to the breaking point.
Yeah, a lot of people did commit suicide because of that as well. And, it's scary to think what 2017.
And I'm sure that the fact that Diana knew 2017 was coming around and was worried.
Yeah.
I mean,
if things were bad.
I worried because I had a rush on wanting to get our passports done because it's like the Trump administration's coming in. They're gonna do stuff that, Pence is the vice president, I mean, he's very anti-LGBT, and, they're gonna start attacking, people like us.
Already there's been a massive increase in hate crimes, because more and more people are becoming emboldened, and they're just trying to hurt people. Actually, I wanted to share, there's this little recap on trans people killed in 2016, and according to the record, this year is one of the higher years of trans death. And I'm sure the numbers, and I don't think just trans, it's going to be like, a major hit on the LG in the city.
It's the whole, I mean, when you have a Supreme Court switching, its complete allegiance. I mean, not that we used to have a Supreme Court that was kind of a split. Now, with the election, Trump is going to put in people that are like the guy Scalia, who died recently, who was very, very much bigoted against the LGBT community. And,
and it's so scary because it's like, okay, you give us something then to take it away. And it's like, was this all planned, to like do whatever? And then all of a sudden, because I mean, what, 4 months ago, 5 months ago, the Attorney General, we see you. And then all of a sudden, boom. And it's like, is this like some sort of dirty joke? Or is something going on?
I don't know, but, Trump is saying, things are going to change come January 20th. I will make these changes and stuff. And,
it's pretty sad and scary at the same
time. And I can't imagine that wouldn't have been something that would have been in the back of Diana Hemingway's mind. Is thinking, wow, instead of getting more opportunities are going to decrease even further than what they are for me now,
So here are some pictures. I guess you could read what's on there, and I'll go ahead and share.
In the first 11 months of 2016, the murders of 26 transgender people have been reported, making it the deadliest year on record for trans people. Almost all of the victims were people of color, and the vast majority of those were Black transgender individuals. This total includes 2 whose deaths have not been ruled homicides by law enforcement. Their loved ones, however, believe they are homicide victims. Given that grim reality, it's no wonder advocates continue to sound the alarm on what they call an epidemic of deadly transphobic violence. And while the world comes together every November 20th To commemorate the lives lost during the annual Transgender Day of Remembrance, the fear and ignorance that fueled these fatal attacks heed no calendar. Last year was previously the deadliest on record for trans Americans, with at least 21 trans women killed in the U.S. alone. Notably, this number and the number for 2016 does not include individuals whose deaths were not reported or investigated, nor victims who were misgendered by police and media or simply not recognized as trans women in death. In an effort to document and ultimately help end this fatal trend, the Advocate has collected information about each person's death and the life they lived.
That was like, pretty big list there, and a lot of them, the majority were trans women of color. And, it's...
And, I mean, that's only trans women. How about trans men?
Yeah.
I'm sure there are trans men being murdered as well.
Yeah.
I mean...
Usually what gets reported the most is, trans women and trans women of color. But I think a lot of it is probably those that are involved in sex work, which, will put you at risk, for that tragedy to take place. I mean, it's definitely...
And that's the thing, I mean, if your primary source of income is in a hotel room and you're doing sexual favors for somebody that that's paying you, and they turn on you, I mean, that's a problem,
It sure is a problem. And how many of us can't forget? I mean, I know it was, when we found out this news on Pulse, it was almost, people were in tears. People was like, we were out that night at a gay club.
Yeah, we were
having a few drinks.
And this guy who shot the place up, he actually was from Florida, and he had already visited Walton Manors, were, possibly the same place that we had been at.
Yeah, he had scoped that place out, and so that's pretty scary. I'm going to go ahead and share this video and then talk a little bit about the Pulse incident, which many of you, had to be living under a rock if you didn't know what Pulse incident was all about.
I wasn't sure if it was the music. It went with the beat almost until you heard too many shots. There's like bang, 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 bang.
When I saw an air section of the bar, it was just a quick drop in the floor to the ground.
We both heard the shot. We both looked at each other like, what the hell is going on? And one people started speaking my person didn't run, didn't get out. Still early in the investigation. I want to say that this was an act of terror and an act of hate.
Now, let me make sure this thing ain't gonna do anything else. Okay. Should I go into the conspiracy side of it? Huh?
I mean,
not to say that people didn't die. They did. Because when there's a conspiracy, it doesn't always mean that it's a lie. People do get killed, but it's used as a false flag. And it's used to create certain things like 9/11 and all that stuff. I don't know, some of those people reporting, like that fat guy that was holding on, it's like they were posing for a camera that other guy that was explaining was like the worst actor ever. And there was that one, appeared at, what was that, Golden Globe or something or another, the mom of one of the guys that had been killed. That was a paid, what do they call them? Something actors.
She was at the Democratic National Convention.
Yeah, that one. So, I mean, not to say that it did not happen, but notice the hatred against the Muslim. It was a terrorist act. And, you know, we're always seeing certain things. What we're looking at now with Trump. People have to, like, open their eyes wide and realize that the world is a stage, and we meaning people in the LGBT, have been used a lot, you know, to create problems. It's like the pushing of the LGBT had created a lot of people pushing against us to not create hatred, to now have people voted for Trump so that they could take away more of our freedoms.
There's something going on, and, you know, we'll never get to the bottom of it.
No.
But there's something a lot more sinister that's happening in society today. You know, things are happening in a way that, you know, seem to be, you know, kind of like they're coordinated and calculated. Jonas writes us, our friend Jonas, he says, "Hi, Mark and Lena, do you think trans people also do sex work since it's validating? Guess it must feel good and desirable for people to want to pay to spend time with you."
Well, my ex, who I met at a transgender, I guess they call them titty bars or whatever, she escorted herself. I took her out of that life when we started, and one of the things she told me that she wanted to experience it as a rite of passage. I've heard that before from trans women, that it makes them feel more validated. Does everybody do that? I don't know. I can only share what I've been told.
If you're having sex as a using a male part, I mean, how could that be validating as a trans woman?
A lot of them don't use the male part; they use the
rear door.
The rear door, and you know, they give head and things of that nature.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I've never done sex work, but
yeah, I would say that yes, it is a form of validation to be able to be the woman in the, you know, in the bed, you know, and that kind of thing. I just think a lot of times, you know, it does create a sense of validation that men who become trans women, you know, that they think that that's how women behave, you know, and, you know, I mean, there's a point where in my own, you know, life before, you know, completely transitioning, I wanted to know if I was what I thought I was. It was like part of my like exploration of my sex, of my gender, of my role in society and everything. And I was intimate with a guy, you know, and I did feel validated as a woman for being that, you know, because I thought to myself, since I had never been in a gay relationship before, that, you know, that if I was perceived and seen as the woman, then if I met and then was intimate with a guy that way and I felt comfortable that way, then that was indeed who I was on the inside. That was my kind of like another way to feel that what I was doing with the direction I was taking my life was actually the right thing. Because what guy wants, you know, what heterosexual guy wants to be intimate with another heterosexual guy? They just don't. You know, it's like, you know, they would be like, you know, any of the
Right,
people that I used to work with.
The key with a lot of the individuals, and I'm not trying to be insulting to anyone, that they go into those so-called titty bars and then other trans women who are working, doing shows and escorting themselves, you know, giving themselves sexually for money. They have, a lot of it is very fetishistic.
Right.
You know, and I mean, I just read something today that somebody killed a trans woman so they wouldn't find out that they were with a trans woman. Some guy I read somewhere, because a lot of men, and this is very common, don't want people to know that they've been, because there's an attraction, because it's like, it's a forbidden thing. It's something very, enduring about, or what, I don't know what the word that I'm looking for, to be with someone.
It's like a delicacy.
Yeah.
You know, it's like having something that you don't usually have. You know, you have a person who sees himself or behaves as or looks like a woman, but then they still have a male part. You know, I remember going out with a guy like back in 2014 where he took me to a tranny bar.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the part of the bar that was specifically the tranny bar. Mm-hmm. And they have the pole, mm-hmm. and they have the trans women there, and you know, they came up to him, and then they saw me with him, and they weren't as flirtatious, I guess, but you know, they had back rooms where they would do their little lap dance and I asked, I said, so are these women all post-op then? He goes, oh, no, that would kill the mystique.
Yeah, that would just, they wouldn't be able,
kill the mystique.
That would kill the fetishism. They wouldn't be interested.
I mean, it's like, I could get a woman down the street, and he was like saying, you know, but I mean, you and these are unique, and you're special.
That's why she-male porn is a very high-paying porn. And now, thanks to Buck Angel and another trans man that have gone into that, there's a major interest as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was reading yesterday, a friend of mine on Facebook who does porn like Buck, and he escorts himself. And just a bunch of guys hitting on him, gay, straight men that think, wow, this is different.
Yeah, it's like the forbidden fruit that they can have.
It's like, whoa, you know, but do half of these people take us serious? No. You know, it's just after.
They want to meet you, like I remember early on before, you know, they want to meet you in like some
back alley,
back place at a park where you can't be, you know, it's like everything's all hush hush.
And it's sad. It's sad because, I mean, we're people. We're different, you know, but we shouldn't be a fetish. People should be with us because they want to, they're attracted, they fall in love, they like our qualities. But some people are very, very shallow, and they only see us as a form of fetish.
But that's why I absolutely recommend and advocate that you find yourself, if you're a trans woman, the best case scenario for us as trans women is to be with trans men.
It makes sense.
I mean, it just
makes sense
because there's nothing that I feel that I can't be completely open and honest with you about, that there's no secrets in our relationship, there's no disparities or anything. We're in this together. You coming from the other side of the tracks and me, you know, it's like the perfect combination. And I think that, you know, instead of a lot of trans women, like I saw on the Caitlyn Jenner show that was canceled, they look at trans guys as like a novelty, as like, oh, how cute, oh, the little trans guy. It's like, that is just so rude. It comes across as very male towards a female, you know, and that's just wrong because, I mean, there's so much manliness, there's so much masculinity in a trans guy that, you know, that it like goes off the tracks compared to most men, regular men out there, you know, and it's something.
It can be. I mean, there's some trans guys that don't admit that, but most trans guys do, you know.
But what I'm saying is that is like the best case scenario. Like, just keep it in family.
Yeah.
keep it within the T, you know. I mean,
like you said, yeah, we understand each other. It's
It
like I
works.
was married to, you know, a female, born female, not trans, and although she understood me and or tried to the best,
Right.
but there was still,
There
you
was
know,
still a disconnect there.
disconnect in somehow, some way, you know, and it's, you always feel like alone, you know, because you're
together, but you're alone because
yeah.
you know that they'll never understand you. They'll never have the feelings that you have. They'll never sense what you sense. Everything's kind of like, you know, it's truly a different
And
world.
she saw me all man. I mean, even with the whole detransition, she could never you're doing what? I don't know anymore.
Yeah.
But sometimes just seeing me completely as a man, although a lot of people go, yeah, that's what you want. And it's like, but you don't really see me. You see me how you want to see me because you don't want to think of yourself as weird for being with somebody like me. To her, I was just this man and nothing ever was before that.
Right.
You know, and it's like sometimes like, you know, I don't know. It's like you don't really see me because you don't see the full me.
It's like you were in Silver City and single,
Yeah.
and a guy came up to you and wanted to, you know, was attracted to you,
Yeah.
right? And he's like, hey, I've been studying it up. I've been looking at my books and reading articles, and I know how to like
make love to a trans guy, and I'm like,
guy.
you ain't gonna make love to this one because I'm not a science project, you know.
It's like, ooh, how fascinating.
And he got pretty pissed off that I didn't want to do the deed with him, and it's like, you know, yeah,
it's very complicated, but one way to end the complication,
we're gonna go
find yourself a trans guy.
Yeah, that's true. 2016 world events I found since it is a New Year's Eve show of all the interesting things that happened in 2016. There was the Syrian crisis, you know, and it continues. Oh my gosh, you know, that crisis is, you know, crazy stuff. Havana Declaration on February 12th. What was it? The Pope went in and let's see here. You're going to take me away from this page. I don't want to do this, but the first meeting between Pope Francis and Patriarch Kirill of Moscow on February 12th in the Cuban capital of Havana.
Wow,
actually,
where they moved there.
That's strange. The two reverend figures had met for the first time, and also known as the Joint Declaration of Pope Francis and Patriarch Kirill. In the declaration, the two leaders issued a joint call to end the persecution of Christians in the Middle East, which is facing turmoil due to the Syrian civil war. I didn't even know that happened. That's pretty wild there. And in Cuba, out of all places,
the World Health Organization announces an outbreak of the Zika virus. Yeah, it was on January 28th this year. And it hit home here.
Yeah.
They were spraying just a few miles down the road in Miami, you know, and it's...
And that stuff is pure poison. Not only does it kill mosquitoes, it also kills people. Let's see what other interesting happened.
The Olympics happened. That was cool.
That was cool.
That was a positive. Hurricane Andrew.
No, not Andrew.
Matthew. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was like a weird hurricane. Written exit from the EU,
which people were saying was kind of like dictating the election of Donald Trump.
Yes. There's a dispute in China. This was a China Sea dispute. There was growing tensions. There's a lot of tension and death and stuff going on this year. It's like, that was weird.
There was that bombing in Turkey.
Yes.
38 people died.
And then we had a presidential election, which turned out not the way many people thought it was going to turn out. That was kind of strange. And the president of my country, Fidel Castro, passed away.
That's right. That was interesting how that all played out. I mean,
and they had the Pope in Cuba, and
and then Obama went to Cuba.
Yeah, he sure did.
When did he go? Did he go after these people met?
It goes around that time.
Yeah.
North Korea was testing some hydrogen bomb. It happened January 6th of this year. And the North Korea government conducts its biggest nuclear test.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was also September 9th.
The Dakota Access Pipeline, I know it's not here, but that whole thing with this pipeline that they're pushing underneath the Missouri River in North Dakota, that's under the land of these Native Americans.
That's right.
It's still ongoing. It's obviously bitter cold right now there. So I think that those contractors and the company is laying low right now until Trump gets into power. Because he used to be a stockholder, so he's just gonna.
Their pods just let it. Then ISIS destroyed the oldest Christian monastery in Iraq. That happened this year.
Wow.
And we've had a bunch of earthquakes. Some of the earthquakes here being
that one in Chile.
Chile was a pretty big one, and then there was one in Ecuador that was like a 7.8. And Italy had a big one that killed 247 people. That's a lot of people dying. And there was another one that killed 100 people in Indonesia on December 7th. That was recent.
All in all, this year has not been a very positive year in the scope of worldwide.
The Colombian airplane crash. That was pretty sad.
Oh, the one with the Brazilian soccer players?
Yeah. There was an explosion in Istanbul, December 10th. It killed a bunch of people, 38 killed and 155 wounded. Pretty sad stuff, and anyone out there want to say anything regarding anything that we've missed that's happened during this year?
Oh gosh, here we go.
Bertie always joins us during the end of the show. Hey Bertie, how are you? God bless you, Bertie. Hope the 2017 keeps any bomb from falling on your head or
They used my old name and they said, "You fake Christian, you should support Trump. He's a real Christian man who loves America and the Bible." I'm not a Christian. I can't be a fake Christian because I'm not a Christian. So that's
Bertie doesn't understand.
And
Bertie, I think they dropped Bertie on his head when he was little, and he tends to get stuck on things all the time. Doesn't know how to move forward, but it's okay, Bertie. We also love the disabled and the ones that really don't have.
They just don't have the capacity
of moving on and evolving and growing. So let's hope the new year brings you that ability.
And honestly, if you want to know where accusers, how they, operate, they operate the same way as what your Bible calls a devil. They stand and accuse people. That's what you do, Bertie. You accuse people. So you act like the devil in how you respond instead of like.
Bertie's fond not even Christian. He just knows that he figures he could hurt you that way, but we don't get hurt anymore.
I don't get hurt.
What's hope? You guys haven't talked about hope.
Yeah. Hope. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's all we actually have as a species. Hope things will get better. Hope that humanity evolves and grows and, stop giving their power away the way they do to the powered elites that are controlling the world. I highly recommend you guys to watch a movie. It's called They Live. It's a 1988 film. And, interesting. How human beings are programmed to believe certain things, how they're programmed to actually fight one another. That old saying, divide and conquer, but yeah, hope is all we have. And not just hope. I think we need to stop hoping so much and be the change that we want to see. Do the things that we feel could better our world.
Well, we were promised hope and change by Obama from like 2008 to where we are now, and here we have a president leaving, his position as president, and the world is definitely not in a better shape at this point. Not because it's his fault,
No, it's not.
but because there's so much
I think
at risk right now.
human beings need to take responsibility and stop, waiting for a savior, stop blaming presidents and putting all their hope on people out there. We all need to do things ourselves. We all need to take responsibility, and, you want to bring down the corporations, stop being such consumers. You want to create change, be that change you want to see. You want better health care, take care of your health. That's the best health care ever, is by you taking care of your own health, taking control of your life, not putting all your eggs in one basket, not giving so much power away. I mean, that's the only way to do it.
Yeah, and basically, we're not here to predict any gloom and doom or anything, but just want people to be prepared and to be informed and to understand that there are things happening that they need to be aware of. And like Mark was talking about, that movie They Live from 1988, which is being called like the older version of what was it, The Matrix.
Oh, yeah.
That we're being lulled to sleep here. In that movie They Live, whenever the main character put these sunglasses on, he saw through the ads, through the newspaper articles, all the things that were being subliminally spoken, that he could see that they were saying, stay asleep, buy, obey, don't make waves, I mean, all these
bill,
things.
this is your God.
This is your God.
And what does it say in the back of a dollar bill? The God we trust. And then he would see and look at the faces of the elite, and they were almost like a reptilian race, like another species, and who's running the world? The 1 percentile. The ones that have all the money are the ones running the world.
There was this video that I saw showing the scale that Americans think that they're on as far as income earning potential. And it was like, the perception is so skewed to what we think it is, and what it actually is, is like the few, that not even the rich, but the richest of the rich are the ones who have like,
they own everything.
Everything.
You're given the whole, if you work hard, you go to college, get a degree, you're going to get somewhere. You're like a hamster on a wheel. A hamster on a wheel. And look at what all the stuff that supposedly Obama did. It's like building a building and having one of those, how do you call those things that tear the building down?
A bulldozer.
A bulldozer, and just.
Wrecking ball.
Yeah, we're like under the illusion that one man can create a change, or that our voting is going to matter. It's like the world is being run by the elites. And the illusion is that we have choices and we're able to do things. We really don't.
And the choices that are given are either red or blue. And it's ironic because it's like either Republican or Democrat, but both of these choices are leading us in the same direction.
My famous words are, both wings belong to the same bird. You don't see it. It's like playing tennis. I remember when I was working as a rehab aide before I graduated as an OT, I think it was Clinton won. Oh my God, everybody was so sad, and they're having fits. And then all of a sudden,
gloom.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, Bush won. And everybody's against Bush. It's like, it doesn't matter who's the president. They really don't help the people. They help themselves and the elite.
They don't. I recently saw that in 2005 when Trump was married the last time, because he's obviously been married more than once, to Melania. In 2005, who was a guest? The Clintons were guests. So
they all know each other. They all play golf together.
Elites, and they all hang out.
They party together. They hang out in secret societies and do crazy things together. I mean, and people just believe that everything is business as usual at the White House. And it's not. Anyway, folks, if you all don't have nothing else.
It was a very somber show today. I'm sorry.
No, it's a good show.
No, someone said. that Candy said.
Oh.
It was a very somber show.
Well, it was a very somber year. 2016, my gosh. I mean, trying to think of anything really positive. Gay marriage was not this year, it was 2015. And probably going to be short-lived if Trump gets his way.
Well, a positive that we experienced was moving here to South Florida.
Yeah.
We got out of the cold and moved into an area that was full of life and excitement. It's been a great year. We haven't really driven much. We haven't needed to because, I mean, we walk all the time. The weather's never changing, so it's always
we went
75,
to Key West.
85.
For our anniversary, we drove to Key West.
Yeah. But we don't really go anywhere. We just enjoy, living our little life here in the beach, and we love it here.
This is like a vacation spot.
Yeah, this is where people come.
Yeah.
So why travel when we're in a place where people come to travel?
We'll be going once you get your passport. We'll be doing a cruise. You've done a cruise, but not.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, I used to cruise every year. And I think we'll be going back to Vegas, and probably for our anniversary. Although we said we were going to do our Key West thing every year, but I think we said we were going to do.
Who knows?
Who knows? Anyway,
we might go to New York. Who knows what we'll do?
But yeah, I guess that's it, folks.
That's it. It's dinner time.
It's dinner time, and thank you so much for tuning in and asking questions and sharing your stuff with us. Hopefully, you guys have a safe New Year. Don't party too much. Do not drink and drive. I don't know. A lot of places have services that bring people to and from, and
we're gonna have a cool time. We're gonna go to celebrate. Just walking again.
Yeah, they have they have 2 celebrations in Fort Lauderdale downtown. So, all right, guys, have a good one. We love you, but remember to always love yourselves too. Good night.